Hey Daily Dosers, my name is Chase and I'm our Temecula campus pastor. Thanks for joining us this morning. You know, as we talk about the heart of service, I can't help but think about this little book in the Old Testament and this incredible woman named Esther. See, I love thinking about the motivation, the heart behind what service is. So we're going to jump into a conversation that's occurring in this little book. But to give you context to what is happening, Esther has found herself as queen of the land. Somehow she ended up married to the king. And there's this counselor that the king has around him where he just hates the Jewish people. In fact, he's convinced the king to completely make a way for them to get eradicated from the land. And so Esther, being a Jew, has an influence and a possibility to help this king see and understand what's going on. And her cousin Mordecai, they've been trading messages back and forth about what they could possibly do to save their people. So we're going to jump into the conversation that they're having in Esther 4:10. It says this. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, now they're passing a messenger back and forth, so she sends someone to say, all the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that they be put to death unless the king extends the gold scepter to them and spares their lives. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. See, Esther knows that she can't just go to the king and have this conversation. She has to be summoned to the court, or there's a real possibility that she might be put to death. Now, you would think they'd be married, it's all good, they see each other all the time, but it says it's been 30 days since she's been summoned to see the king. So she's really scared for her life. Well, Esther, very real fear that she has, but Mordecai sends this back. Verse 13, he says, sent back this answer, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. See, he gives this warning of, no, just because you're queen, that doesn't mean that you get to get away. You're going to be part of this with the rest of us. Then he says this, for if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance from the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. See, we always think, if there's a void or if there's something that we should do and we choose not to do it, somebody else will take care of it. Somebody will step in and take care of whatever the issue is. And Mordecai is saying, you know what, that's probably true, but there's a negative consequence. He says, your father's family will perish. You know what, the Jewish nation is going to be saved. There's going to be someone that the Lord rises up and brings salvation to these people, but you and your family are the ones that are going to reap negative consequences. He goes on to say this, and who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. See, that's the phrase that always bounces around in my head, for such a time as this. I think of my role as a father and the influence that I can have on my kids and the way that I get to serve my spouse. There's nobody else that can do what I do. Nobody has the gifts, the abilities, the skills, the passions, the talents that I have, or the influence. And we can all think of these situations in our lives where, you know what, maybe it's working with kids and there's this ability for us to go and serve. Maybe it's the money that we have and we're able to love people with that easily. And whatever role the Lord has called you to and the gifts, abilities, and skills that he's given you, there's something that he's calling you to do. For Esther, it was the way to serve her people was to go to the king and tell him what was going on. For Mordecai, it was talking to Esther and convincing her, you know what, you need to have a conversation. We can all think of those things of what is God calling you to do? What is that act of service that he's asking you to do right now? And you might be thinking, you know what, I don't want to do it right now. Life is busy. Someone else will fill that void. It's true. Someone might fill in that void, but we don't know the negative consequences that it has on us or the people around us. And yet, if we came with this mentality of for such a time as this, God has called you, he's given you the gifts, he's given you the influence. For such a time as this, what has God called you to do? We love you guys. We'll see you next time.